All right, educators, welcome. In this explainer, we're going to dive into something that could truly transform your classroom, the science of how we really learn. We're talking about the incredible power of active recall, and we'll be drawing on the fantastic research material from Dr. Sudhendra S.G. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about a huge misconception that trips up almost every single student out there. It's something we call the learning illusion, and it all starts with a pretty simple analogy. I mean, think about it. You could watch 1,000 videos of amazing soccer goals, right? But is that going to make you a star player? Of course not. Learning is not a spectator sport. The real skill, the real understanding, only kicks in when we get off the sidelines and actually step onto the field. And this, right here, gets to the very heart of the problem. You see, passive learning, like rereading your notes over and over, it feels good. It feels productive because it's based on simple recognition. Your brain just goes, oh yeah, I've seen that before. But active learning, well, that forces the much harder work of recollection, of pulling that information out of your brain from scratch. It's tough, for sure, but that struggle is exactly what builds deep, lasting knowledge. So what's really going on inside our heads when we make that critical shift? From just passively recognizing something to actively trying to recall it? Let's pop the hood and take a look. When you just pause a lesson and get your students, or even yourself, to answer these questions without peeking at their notes, something amazing happens. Their brain has to actually work to find that information. It has to fire up the right neurons and start building stronger, more reliable pathways to that knowledge. You see, this act of retrieval, it's not just a memory check. It is the very process that builds the memory. It takes scattered little facts and organizes them into neat chunks. It links new ideas to stuff you already know. And maybe most importantly, it shines a giant spotlight on what you don't know, showing you exactly where the gaps are. That's how you build real, solid memory. Now look, this isn't just some theory stuck in a cognitive science lab. This is a fundamental principle we see in action with brilliant minds and top performers all throughout history, all over the world. Take Michael Jordan, one of the greatest athletes to ever live. He understood this on a gut level. He never saw failure as the end of the road. For him, every single mistake was just a piece of feedback. It was critical data that he could use to adjust, to recalibrate, and to get better. He didn't become a legend by remembering all the shots he made. No way. He became a legend by actively learning from the more than 9,000 shots that he missed. Every single miss wasn't a failure. It was a practice rep. It was a test. And when you zoom out, you see this pattern everywhere. From the ancient Indian astronomer Aryabhata, who was constantly testing and retesting his models of the universe, to Thomas Edison, who saw thousands of so-called failures as necessary steps to find the right one. Even modern education is finally catching on, shifting towards questions that require you to actually think and recall, not just repeat. The lesson is clear. Progress comes from active testing. Which, of course, brings us to the most important question of all. This all sounds great in theory, right? But how do you, as an educator, bring this powerful idea into your classroom? Like tomorrow? Well, here's your toolkit. We've got 7 simple, super effective, and low prep strategies that can turn any lesson from a passive lecture into a dynamic, active learning experience for your students. Okay, let's start with a few quick wins. Things you can do right in the middle of class. Just hit pause and ask students to summarize the last point in one sentence. Or have them write a 1-minute paper on the most important idea they just heard. And of course, low-stakes quizzes. They make testing a regular, stress-free part of learning, not some big, scary event. And then we have the strategies that build deeper habits. An error journal teaches students to ask, "Why did I get this wrong?" which reframes mistakes as opportunities. The Feynman check is the ultimate test. If you can't explain a concept simply, you don't really get it. And peer testing, that's a huge win-win. Teaching something is one of the best ways to solidify it in your own mind. This is so important. The big takeaway here is that we have to completely reframe what testing means in our classrooms. It's not about punishment or judgment, it's about practice. Think about it in a history class. Instead of just asking, "When did this happen?" you ask, "Why was this a major turning point?" That shift forces students to go way beyond just memorizing a date. They have to recall the facts and then weave them together to build a real argument. And in math? Oh, this is a real game changer. Look, almost anyone can follow a formula to solve a problem. But to create a new problem that uses that same formula correctly, that requires a much deeper, more flexible understanding of the whole concept. And for language arts, this kind of question is pure gold. It makes students really process the core theme, the essence of the work, and then translate it. It proves they didn't just read the words, they actually understood the meaning behind them. When you get down to it, this one simple shift in mindset can change absolutely everything. It creates a classroom culture where every quiz, every question, every single mistake is seen not as a failure to be afraid of, but as a valuable stepping stone towards genuine understanding.
So let this be your new mantra. Failure is feedback. Testing is training. Because when testing is just training, the goal isn't just about getting the right answer anymore. It's about being brave enough to find the wrong one and then learning from it. The real question is, how can you help your students do that tomorrow?